Alright, here's a brand new smartphone from OnePlus. It's the Nord CE 3 Lite and it is a rather entry-level smartphone powered by the Snapdragon 695 chipset and also supports 5G too. This phone, to be honest, feels very familiar to one of the other phones that we have reviewed earlier this year. But let's put that aside first and let's see if this is a good phone or not. I want to quickly comment about the name of the phone. The full name of this phone is a mouthful, OnePlus Nord 3... no. OnePlus Nord CE 3 Lite. Either way, let's talk about the design of the phone now. I honestly do like the design. It's very similar to last year's Nord CE 2 Lite but without the camera bump now. Now there are just two big protruding circles that houses all of the cameras and I like this a lot better. It's clean. I do need to highlight one thing. The back panel, I can't confirm what material this is because it doesn't feel like glass but it doesn't feel like plastic at all because it doesn't have hairline scratches and it slides around the table easily. But either way, I'm still not a fan of the glossy finish and I would have really preferred a matte finish instead. I mean, I do like the green color a lot. Some people told me that they don't like this color, but hey, that's why this phone is also available in black color as well. Moving on to the cameras, we have a total of 3 cameras here, but I will only say one of it is usable because that 2 megapixel macro camera is just... yeah, I can take pictures like this, but do you really want to use it? So it all boils down to that single 108 megapixel main camera. During broad daylight, it does take good pictures and the colors do look good as well and the details are actually quite sharp, but only in certain shots. That is mainly because this camera doesn't have OIS and this is especially problematic for night shots. And as you can see in this shot here, there is an excessive amount of sharpening happening. There is one thing that OnePlus highlighted and I was actually perplexed. OnePlus says that we can use the 108 megapixel sensor and then take 3 times lossless pictures. And we all know that this is definitely not the case because if you take a look at these shots for example, yeah, once I press that 3 times zoom, the pictures are going to be blurry. That is only gonna get worse because since this phone doesn't have OIS to stabilize the shots, so any sort of handshakes will be amplified 3 times in the shot. Either way, I do think that taking pictures at 108 megapixel and then cropping in looks a lot better than the 3 times digital zoom. Now take a look at these shots here for a comparison. But there is yet another thing that I think is very weird. So in the camera app, we can take pictures using the 108 megapixel mode and that results in 12,000 by 9,000 pixels picture. Or we can use the extra HD mode which creates a slightly larger image of 12,032 pixels by 9,024 pixels image. I have honestly no idea why this mode exists and looking at the pictures taken by both of these modes, they look pretty much identical. It's just that the extra HD is ever so slightly bigger. And the video capabilities of this phone is rather straightforward. It can only take videos up to 720p or 1080p at 30 fps and honestly that EIS just makes walking videos to be rather unwatchable. It's a mess and it has an excessive amount of warping. Now let's talk about the screen. This is a 6.72-inch IPS LCD screen with a resolution of 2400 by 1080 pixels and it has a maximum refresh rate of 120Hz. Honestly, this is a pretty good screen. So we used our colorimeter and tested it and we got 99.96% of sRGB and 98.36% of DCI-P3 color gamut coverage at a very low delta E number. The absolute maximum brightness as we can get though is, well, kinda expected. We only get around 650 nits and I mean, this is the limitation of IPS LCD screens. You might have issues looking at the screen during a super bright sunny day and that is to be expected. Now let's talk about the performance. This phone has the Snapdragon 695 chipset and we've tested other phones with this chipset before and the performance is, I'd say it depends on what you want to do with it. For day-to-day usage like social media, web browsing and all of those stuff, it will mostly be fine. There will be stutters here and there but generally okay. In case you're wondering, this phone does have 240Hz touch sampling rate. When games are concerned though, it truly depends on what games you're playing. For example, this phone can handle PUBG Mobile, COD Mobile and Mobile Legends just fine, but for Genshin Impact it's gonna be a challenge. Even at the lowest graphical settings, the game struggles to maintain 30 FPS and dips further down constantly. I mean, I have nothing against this phone because it is indeed an entry-ish level smartphone after all, so I don't expect it to play Genshin Impact with no lags at all. It's our job to test out these phones with a few different games to let you know how this phone generally will perform. Just like how we found out that PUBG News state even though it has 90 FPS option for this phone, but OnePlus still doesn't let a majority of games to run above 60 FPS. The battery life is very straightforward. So the OnePlus Nord CE 3 Lite comes with a 5000 mAh battery, and in our usual PCMark battery life test at 100 nits brightness, it can run around 13 hours, which is actually quite decent. The charging time is also nothing out of the ordinary, so the phone comes with a 67-watt charger inside the box, and it charges from 15% to completion in slightly less than 40 minutes. The temperature while charging is also very low. 36 degrees Celsius is the highest that we have recorded during the entire charging duration. Unfortunately, OnePlus still uses its own proprietary charging standard, and what I mean by proprietary is that you have to use their own cable and charger to get this charging speed. In terms of software, this phone is running Oxygen OS 13.1, and the overall features, look and feel, and even pre-built apps are more or less the same as their flagship OnePlus 11. There are little to no bloatware apps, and we still have the OnePlus Shelf feature too. I mean, I really like the Shelf feature, and it has so much more potential to expand to include more things like maybe home screen widgets. Imagine swiping down to access all sorts of widgets without going back to the home screen to access those widgets. Other than that, the overall experience is actually snappy even for a phone with just the Snapdragon 695 chipset. There are a few more things that I want to mention. So this phone is using UFS 2.2 NAND chips, and it also has a USB 2.0 port at the bottom of this phone. However, we do have a 3.5mm audio jack, which is nice to have even though OnePlus still wants to promote their entry-level OnePlus Nord Buds 2 as well. Review coming soon, so do subscribe for that. It also has a dedicated nano SIM card slot and another combo slot so you can put in a microSD card if you want to. And that is the end of this review. Should you buy the OnePlus Nord CE 3 Lite? I think that ultimately depends on the price. At this point in filming, we do not have the price yet, but based on what I have tested so far, this phone has to be priced lower than the Samsung Galaxy A34. There are two reasons why I say that. Now, number one, the Galaxy A34 is using a Dimensity 1080 chipset which performs better, and it also has a proper OIS system. If the OnePlus Nord CE 3 Lite is priced lower than the A34 by like, I don't know, maybe $100 US, then I would consider it to be good value. Otherwise, it would be quite a difficult choice. So, thanks bike, real noisy.